Hello, this is Daryl Ehrlich, the editor of the Billings Gazette, and this is the Vietnam Voices series, a project of the Billings Gazette and sponsored by Master Lube. It is October 2nd at about 9 a.m., and today I'm joined in studio with Robbie Robinson. He's going to have an amazing story, and I'm excited to have him share it with you. This is an interesting thing, and we'll get to this, but most of the time I tell folks what branch in years of service. Robbie has amazing service with the U.S. Army from 1960 to 1972 and with the Navy from 1974 to 84. So that makes him that split loyalties, I guess. We'll get into that. But Robbie, thanks for being here and thanks for agreeing to be part of this series. So appreciate
You're welcome.
it. So let's talk about life before 1960. Where were you and what were you doing?
Well, it started out, let's still go back to I was 6 years old, 6 or 7. I decided I was playing with a shoebox of World War II paratrooper pictures of somebody in the family, and I had made up my mind at that time that I was going to go to war, and I was going to be a paratrooper. And I was sort of an orphan. I grew up, an aunt and uncle took me in. I grew up tough on a dairy farm. My uncle was a big man, tough man, but he was a Christian. And anything we did, the way I grew up, I feel most fortunate because that laid the groundwork for I wanted to be a Green Beret. And the background growing up like that, it just helped me tremendously.
What particular about the background helps with the Green Beret?
Well, working tough. Okay. I got up in the second grade, 5 o'clock in the morning. I worked on a dairy farm. It's 7 days a week. So I had chores every morning, night to the day I graduated. And then work ethics, toughness, no complaining, being physical, responsibility. He laid a lot of responsibility on me. So when I went in the Army and went through the basics, I couldn't quit smiling. I thought I'd die and go into heaven after the way I worked hard growing up, and this was nothing. And then I went through airborne training, and I had a problem smiling too much because the instructors are trying to be tough. You know, they want to hurt you.
Right.
They want to, and so one instructor, he took me behind the rigger shed one time, and his arms were as big as my thighs, and he made me quit smiling. So life got on, and then I went to the 82nd Airborne.
Okay.
Started out as a machine gunner, and 1962, President Kennedy came to Fort Bragg, and I was still in the 82nd Airborne, but I was trying to work my way over into the Special Forces, and he's the one that authorized the Special Forces to wear the Green Beret, wore it openly. The Green Berets used to sneak around wearing them anyway. They used to call them Sneaky Peeps. But so to get in the Green Beret then, you had to be a E5 Airborne Ranger qualified, a swimmer and all that. I had to fudge a little bit on the swimming. I told them I could, but I couldn't. And they quickly found that out, and they changed that. But that got me in Special Forces in 1962, thereabouts, and then it was just going to school, training, and till time to go to Vietnam. Vietnam was getting strong. Well, before Vietnam, Laos was the problem area. The Special Forces were doing a lot of operation over there, and so they sent me to take French training, the language, but then all of a sudden the war went over into Vietnam, was where the concentration was. But in between there, also we were having trouble with Russia and America wasn't getting along too good, and we were afraid about nuclear warfare. Well, they sent me to school to train on the suitcase bomb. Have you ever heard of that?
No. Tell me about that.
Suitcase bomb's a nuclear bomb that you can carry. It, well, to give you an idea about the size of one I was trained on, went from your reserve down to the top of your boots. And it was about, 10, 12 inches round. It wasn't very big, and you could free fall with it, you could jump with it, and me being a machine gunner, I was used to jumping with heavy loads. I jumped a GP bag, it was called, where you could pack your machine gun, ammo, extra batteries, grenades, all the extra stuff. So they say, "Oh, you got a good start." So that took up a lot of my time, and it was interesting. Thank God. Of course, we never had to deploy any, but we were ready. But all this training, and then here's the deal. Now, I was focused on going to war, and I forgot to tell you, before Kennedy came, the invasion into Cuba, Bay of Pigs.
Yep.
We trained hard. I was still the 82nd then, but boy, the company I was with, they were gun-ho. It's like jet pilots, fighter jet pilots. They train, they want to fight. They want to put that training to work. Well, we did too. And we worked hard, and we trained hard, did a lot of, helped me out in Special Forces with all the hand-to-hand training and the physical training and running 3 to 5 miles before breakfast. That's no big deal. That's good for you. And so we were all packed up. I had my basic load of ammo and my bag, all PAE bag there, and boy, they loaded me down. And camouflaged, I was going to be on the second wave to jump into the Bay of Pigs. They locked the doors, put chains in the doors, the barracks doors behind us. We were gone. And you talk about some big disappointment when they called that off, and even history kind of points out that was a big mistake. We didn't do it. And even President Kennedy said, I think he really felt bad because there was a lot of guerrillas there on the ground waiting for us. Of course, that's what we were trained to work with. And so when that was called off, you talk about some disappointed soldiers because we were ready. But now I got promoted to sergeant, and as soon as I did, I re-enlisted and extended my years of service to get over in Special Forces. But daggum, all these years of training, and now the war's getting hot over there in Vietnam, and I says, man, if I don't hurry up and get over there, I'm gonna miss out on this. And still going. Then they sent me to Vietnamese school. I says, man. Then they sent me to Commo school. Well, Commo, I'm kind of a little slow. The code, diddy-dot-dit-dit stuff. I tried, but they says, you just ain't going to get up to 18 words a minute. We can see that. We think we'll change your rate to demolitionist. That's more like it. So now I'm going. It just seemed like it was forever, just training and going to schools. Then I got nervous. I talked to a personnel man, handles personnel records and orders and all that. I says, here's the deal. I'll give you $20 to get me on a team going to Nam. Yeah, I was afraid I was going to miss out. Now,
and what year was this?
That would have been the year, well, it was actually the year of 1965.
Okay.
Early.
You were worried in 1965 you were going to miss out on Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that's 5 years of training, and
yeah.
I was getting pretty good at training, and
right.
But I wanted to get involved in the war and believed in what our country was trying to attempt, and I'm always for the underdog. Specialist Forces motto is free the oppressed, and we really believe that. We were trained to do just that, come down to their level. You probably heard this saying, win the hearts and the minds of the people, and all that. Well, the personnel man come up, he says, you don't need to give me $20 a year slated. You'll be on a team. And they were going to send me to a pretty serious area because they called us all in. We had to make sure we had life insurance and the family was covered and all those details. And so off I go. It was kind of neat back in this. I'll bring this point out because it shows you how the attitude of the country went downhill pretty quick as far as respect for the military. I first flew over. They flew us over out of California. They brought our meals to us on the plane. It had actual silverware, real metal forks and spoons. And the stewardess says, "Soldier, you need a beer, don't you?" I said, "Well, yeah. Can't fly on one wing, bring two," But but they treated you nice. They were really friendly and everything. So I go off to Vietnam, landed in Saigon, and wow, I could tell pretty quick I was in a hot area. I see flares going off all around Saigon, and everybody carrying a weapon, and everybody was pretty serious. And so I went through the briefing there, and now it's time they're going to send me way up. Vietnam's divided up into 4 corps areas, so way up in the I Corps, we called it, First Corps, and they're going to put you on a hot spot up there. And I said, well, okay, let's go. And of course, you didn't go, you had to fight your way out of Saigon. That's how the war was going down then. You didn't drive, just jump in a Jeep unless it was a convoy and armored. So the war is pretty tense. So I go up there to Da Nang, and they said, well, we're going to send you a team that they need a good man out there. It ain't going to be easy, but we can't get you in right away because they're surrounded. The outpost. And Charlie's got them pinned down, kind of. And the weather's kind of bad. And we'll wait for the weather to break, and we'd like to just jump you in with some resupplies, but we got to get the guy you're replacing out of there. So we're going to wait till the weather breaks, the situation calms down, and we'll insert you. Well, I was December the 5th. It took from December 5th to Christmas Day, December 25th, to get in there. And that took off into the camp and landed. Well, they says, we got something special for the team for you to take. They had a canned turkey that they were supposed to get Thanksgiving Day. Well, I went in there, and they were glad to get the turkey. They didn't care less about me. They weren't impressed with me, but they sure liked the eyes lit up when they seen that can of turkey. So, well, guys were pretty tough then. And team sergeant, he says, well, we got to find out what kind of stuff you're made out of, whether we can depend on you. You haven't been under fire yet. And we're going to get you checked out pretty quick. He says, it was 2 days later, he says, we're going to send you out on a mission. I'm going to send you with a good man, and we'll find out. I says, all right, top, here, I'm ready.
Okay. I've been training for 5 years.
Yeah. I said, I'll do my best. He said, we want you to. So, mistake. Here I was new in camp, and of course you got fresh jungle fatigues and everything. These guys been out there and the rice paddies and washing their fatigues in the river, and they were really had some wear on them, you know. Mm-hmm. Well, with my new goddamn jungle fatigues, well, I stuck up like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. Thank God Charlie's a poor shot, because they were trying to get me, and rounds hitting around me, you know. And that's probably what saved my life. If they'd been shooting at one of my buddies, I'd have probably got hit. But they were trying to get me.
So you went out on that first. What was the first mission? What was it like?
It was a. I wouldn't call it recon patrol, because they had intel where there was a concentration of VC, and we just wanted to go in there and kick butt, you know. Mm-hmm. And there was a bunch of them there. But, you know, that's what I like about Special Forces, you know. We were our own, we led our own operation. We planned our operations. When we get the objective, we had to plan it. We planned all our routes, primary, alternate routes, rendezvous points, and all this. We were in charge. I was only E6 then. Staff sergeant. The fellow I was teamed up with, he was E7, but we were in charge, to the point where we called in air support. Not too many enlisted men had that kind of responsibility, where the Air Force would rely on a enlisted man calling the shots. Mm-hmm. Because we had to call them in. They're already airborne. They're waiting, because we knew we were going to get into it. And so that's the scariest I've ever been. It caught me by surprise. We called in. We got them pinned down or pinpointed.
How many were there? Do you think?
In the
VC. Yeah.
VC.
Yeah, and how many were you?
Oh, we work small teams.
Okay.
You only send 2 Americans out on a team, okay, and 2 counterparts, LLDB, Loklung.bit. We had another name for it, but we'll leave it at that. But Vietnamese Special Force. So you'd have 2 Vietnamese Special Force, 2 Americans, and then we took a platoon of our CIDGs. These are mountain yards that we trained ourselves in camp, and we trained them tough, really tough and good. And they were dependable, and I owe my life to them, because they took their training serious, and had they not done so, I wouldn't have got out. A lot of scrapes was in. But so this particular operation, when I talk about a platoon, to us a platoon then would be like no more than 2 rifle squads, which is about 24 people at the most. And I think we only had 18, 20 with us. And as far as Charlie, we figured company size, but the jungle was thick, and they were dug in pretty good down in the jungle. We were we chose higher ground, of course. Well, of course, what we did, boy, those Air Force pilots, I couldn't believe. Now, this is 1965. Didn't have all the modern means of guidance systems that we have now, but they were pretty daggone good, because we called them in. Of course, we marked the target with smoke. We fire a smoke grenade from our law. It's a 57 grenade launcher. Fired a smoke in there for them, mark it. But I never even heard them coming. Man, all of a sudden they come from the rear and load to the jungle. Man, I about crapped my pants. I really, I mean, that scared me more than getting shot at.
Yeah.
And we were close enough. We could feel the heat off. We dropped napalm.
Okay.
So that was my first operation. And
Wow. And was it what you had expected when you had trained for?
yeah, thank God for all that good training, because Charlie could have cut us off, but we were careful not to get sucked in. And that's one of the things I learned the hard way, because I got captured in some of the training I went through. This is a training. And they weren't easy. We weren't easy on one another. You talk about waterboarding, we were waterboarding each other way back then. This was going through the training, Special Forces training. We were doing that for way back then. I had a scar on my head where bang my head up against the wall to get me to talk. That was just training, see? But that's good.
Right. So so you're out on your first mission, and you've got you're engaging.
Right.
You've got air support.
Right.
And you're in the jungle.
Right.
This must be that's a lot to take in. You've got a lot of things. Was it exciting? Were you afraid? Were you?
No, adrenaline's gone. The first time you're shot at, anybody's been out there that read or hear about this, you get momentarily a sickish feeling in your stomach.
Okay.
It seems like it lasts a long time, but it's just a split second. Then all the instincts kick in, and you just do what you're trained to do, and it comes easy. And then you're off and running.
Okay. So where are you? Where? So you're up in I Corps. So you're up north.
I was at a camp called Ha Tan, west of Quan Nai. It's and it wasn't too far in from the inland, but it was a hot area and a small camp, and they needed help, and it was real challenging. And of course, me being a demo man, I had all kinds of tricks up my sleeve. I made that camp so strong. We used to have a joke in the Special Forces. Charlie had run over one of our camps just for a training exercise, because we were small. And it was just good practice for them to train their people. So we were very vulnerable. But if you ever want to learn anything about, you can't negotiate out of strength, and there's no substitute for strength, and I knew that. So, boy, I went to work. When you're not out on patrol, you got 12-man A team. Well, in camp, you're lucky you have 6 men in camp at any time. You got one man back in the rear scrounging supplies and coordinating supplies. And here, I'm going to share a little story that I told you that you don't hear about in movies and read about in books. To give you some idea, these are mountain yards that we trained, and they don't digest sea rats good. It's their digestive system and everything. It's just not them. They like real beef and vegetables and rice and stuff. So we had to feed them. We had on these camps, we would have as high as around 180 mountain yards. It varied from camp to camp. Our camp, we only had about maybe 140, 160 mountain yards that we trained, that the teams that were there before I got there. And then of course, training is an ongoing thing. Well, we got to feed them. How do you feed? And you want all this sea rat stuff laying around, we're just a little camp. So and then the weather's bad. They had trouble getting me into the camp. Well, how you going to get supplies? I go a month without even getting any mail. No radios. Back in them days, see, we didn't have all these little radios and modern communications and entertainment they got now. I never heard any music for 5 months. I stayed in the camp. They want me to go back for a break to go get some. No, I'm staying here.
Right.
I don't like to get around the flagpole.
Right.
So anyway, they parachuted live cows and pigs into us. to feed our CIDG.
Wow.
This is something you won't hear about. And I thought I don't know why nobody ever picked up on it. It was fascinating to me. And our favorite aircraft was called the Caribou. It's made in Canada, and it's a small twin-engine plane, and has a ramp in the back and everything. Well, the riggers would rig up these cows and pigs in wooden containers. The pigs laid flat on a poke, and they'd 3 to 5 pigs on a pallet, strap them down to the pallet, put cargo chutes on them, push them out over our camp.
Huh.
Yeah, the cows, they were in crates. Now, cows, all the pigs squeal when they hit the ground. You imagine, I kind of felt sorry for them a little bit there. Boom, you know.
Right.
But the cows in the crates, sometimes their legs would break a leg at least, you know. Of course, that'd be the first one we'd eat.
Right.
Now, how do you cook for that many people? How you going to cook? We had big iron pots, cast iron pots. Some of the old farmers would probably remember they used to make apple butter and stuff in them and things like that in the old days. The big iron pots, and make a hearth. And then we take a D-handle shovel and stir up, put everything in the pot. The mountain yards did this. We, you know, they were real adept at. They didn't cut sirloin steaks or nothing like that. They after the butcher, they'd climb on top of them with machete, chop, get chunks of meat in there and rice, and it was good.
Was it?
Well, yeah.
It's just meat and rice.
This is and their style of eating. And then you just take your canteen cup and dip it in there and move along smartly.
Was it better than sea rations?
Oh yeah, I mean. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to win over people, hearts and minds, you got to eat like they eat. You got to live like they live. You don't want to have anything better. We were told not to be wearing all them big watches or anything fancy, you know. In fact, things were tough then, and we were advised not to carry pictures of family in your wallet or person. You know, that's just asking for trouble. And a lot of guys took pictures, and then these operations and dead VC and captured all mines and booby traps and all that, you know. And I say, why are you taking these pictures? You know, this is, I think that stuff should stay. I says, I don't want to send that to my wife and children. And I says, I don't think I'll even make it home the way we're going, you know. And,
right.
And why do you want that stuff sent to your families back there? And then something happens to you. You know, you probably get a CMH. You know what that is?
Congressional Medal of Honor?
Well, we call it casket with metal handles.
Oh.
I said, that's about to be the best I'll ever get, you know.
Right.
So, you know, things like that. Of course, we joked a lot. We'd say, oh, man, this ain't looking good for you, buddy. I'm glad you're going, not me. You know, we're taking our turn in the barrels differently.
Right. So. Right. Is that a coping mechanism? I mean, a little bit of humor, gallows humor?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We Dinky Dow Scruggs. He was a medic on our team.
Right.
Dinky Dow means crazy.
Right.
Okay. They put him with me because a lot of guys said that I wasn't right. I said, well, thank you. I says, God's looking for peculiar people. I read that in the Bible someplace. And I said, I don't want to ever be normal. So they said, at night when you gotta spread yourselves all around with the CIDG around the camp to protect the camp and everything. Well, they'd team him up with me. And Dinky Dow Scruggs, he'd lay out just how we were going to get hit that night. He laid out the whole battle plan. I said, Scruggs, go to sleep. I says, we were manning machine guns, see. And he'd go on and on. I finally get him quiet down. But then, when you get hit, he's the coolest one on the team. That guy was just like a machine. In fact, I still used to pack my tools later on in my life, because I remember how he had them rolled up, and mechanics, they have a cloth, and they lay their tools in it, and they just roll it up. Well, that's the way he had his medical equipment and surgical equipment. He'd roll that out, and man, he'd just start putting pieces, patch and stopping the blood and stuff like that. You know, he was cool. And then the crazy guy. Now, the medic got a lot of stuff to carry. Dinky Dow, he wanted to carry BAR, Browning automatic rifle. That weighs 19 pounds. He's, and Charlie ain't going to get his gut coming to him and messing with me, because that BAR, it did have nice choke, you know.
Right.
So.
What? Now you're a machine gunner, right? So what?
Well, in the 82nd, then Special Forces, I became demo man, demolitions.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about. So you're up. You're in the. Is it hot? Is it jungle, mountain area? What is it? Yeah. Is this? This is a lot different than milking cows back home.
Oh yeah, very hot and humid, but it don't take you long to learn the fact you don't wear no skivvies over there.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get jock rot and everything else, and so you no nothing like that. You just wear a pair of jungle fatigues. And one thing, we were fortunate, conventional units, when they go to combat, they got to wear all that flak jacket and steel pots and all that. We couldn't slow you up the way we operated. Small groups, and so we didn't wear any of that. And I got so I didn't even wear I had socks hardly. I just wear jungle boots. Your feet get tough then, calloused, and things like that. But it depends on the individuals, so that's how I started out, and I don't want to keep going on about all these operations.
Well, it's kind of, so when you're doing this, are you fighting VC and NVA, or, I mean, you're up pretty far north. I imagine there's the regulars, but there's also...
It depends on what area of Vietnam and core area and everything you're at. As time progressed, more and more North Vietnamese popped up, especially up in the core, I-Corps, because they come down from the north, the Ho Chi Minh Trail right across. I'll talk about that if you're interested a little bit, and because I ran into. That war was fought by everybody. Now, here's the thing: I don't take nothing away from. People back there in the rear echelon, we call it, because for every good man up there or in the trenches, it seemed like when I first went in the military, they said something like 7. Well, it's more like about 50 men back there supporting one man in the trenches, and it takes it, and we appreciate it, and it hurts when you don't get. One of the biggest fears I got in Vietnam was running out of ammo. That's the biggest fear I had. I wasn't scared of the enemy so much as when the ammo start getting low and the grenades, it makes you real nervous. Then you get that kind of bothered me. But so it takes a lot of good men back there. It's just I wasn't one of them. I didn't wasn't my style, but well, I'm sure glad they were back there.
Yeah, you feel like you were supported. Right. What was your opinion? You're a professional fighter in Special Forces. What's your opinion of the Viet Cong, and what's your opinion of the NVA?
Well, the Viet Cong are only as good as they're good, and they're well trained and disciplined and tough. But when the NVA jumps in there, then they got better support and even more training and toughness. And of course, the NVA, they're intent on taking the country over, which they ended up with it. You know, they won. Well, they say they won. Now, I don't call that winning. Now, here's the deal, too. Remember I pointed out the first time I went over to Vietnam how nicely I was treated on the plane. You know, the stewardess offered a beer or two and nice silverware and nice meal. After spending 1 year in Vietnam, the first time I went back, and because of all the experiences I had over there, and I haven't told you about the good parts yet.
Okay.
But I ended up being an instructor at John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center for 3 years in the demolition branch. And I liked it. Well, first of all, they called me over there to be an instructor. Well, all I want to do is help, you know. I'll help set the ranges up. I'll get all the demolitions, training aids together. No, you're going to be the instructor. Oh, I don't think so. You know, I'll just support you guys. You know, I like to be in the background. And you are going, you know, I see they're getting serious. You're going to give a class on, the first class I gave was on electric firing system for demolitions. Oh, man. So I got all the information and made a lesson plan and gave my first class. Now I want to be good at what I do, you know, give it everything I got. Oh, I had so much detail in all that electric stuff and the firing systems, the demolitions. It was boring. The class, now these are all officers. I got a bad report at the end of the class. The instructor was too lengthy, was uninteresting, didn't hold the class.
Oh, wow.
And that made me mad. I said, well, okay, you're going to, they says, Robbie, just be yourself. You know, don't try to be fancy. Just be yourself. They get all that fancy stuff, these officers and all these, they want to just hear, just be yourself. Okay, and you are going to teach again. Now it's getting aggravated. I got out there the next time I mispronounced words, and I have a tendency when I get nervous to do that, and so I notice they laugh when I pronounce something wrong or say something. So I started doing that. I started liking it, and they did too. I made it fun for them. But what the problem was, I got pretty good at that instructing business. They wouldn't let me go because the war keeps going on over there, and I was feeling pretty. I brought even a whole list of all the people that I knew that were killed over there. Their names are on the wall down there in Washington. And I was guilty. I says, you know, this ain't right. I'm losing too many buddies. I hear about so-and-so got blowed away. So-and-so, he bit the dust. He's gone. So-and-so. And then kept going on, all these names. I said, I got to get back over there. Because you know, I'm a special forces. I'm Green Beret. You know, I'm here to fight, not to just be here bumping my gums with this instructing business. So, well, what happened? I hurt my back jumping, and made a parachute jump one day, messed my back up. Well, they put this ugly brace on me and everything, but I could still instruct. Well, somebody in personnel made it their business. Well, he ain't qualified to jump out of airplanes anymore. You get him out of the Green Beret. So they did, and I'm going to go fast forward and skip a whole lot of bad times, experiences. But what happened is, they screwed up and gave me orders to Vietnam because I hadn't been over there for 3 years.
Okay.
And a lot of my buddies, they catch themselves coming and going. In fact, to give you an idea how fast it was, this is kind of funny and not funny. There's a lady there in Fayetteville, North Carolina. She had a big limo, and she'd gone through 3 Green Berets. Had married 3 Green Berets. They'd go over there. She'd marry them. They get killed. Next. And these guys were crazy enough they knew after 1, 2, I ain't scared of dying, and I ain't gonna die. You know, most people, that's the proper attitude. She went through 3, and so anyway, and I didn't feel I would ever make it back, but somehow, and this leads up to a good point. If anybody gets anything out of this, one of the reasons I don't mind spending a little time, because this will be the last time I'll ever do something like this. There's 2 points that I want to get across to families. Number 1, I did a lot of praying. I'm a Christian. I didn't always, you wouldn't know it a lot of times. There's been, but it's always been there. And I'm always for the other guy. You know, I didn't care about me so much, but my buddies, you know. You mess with me, don't mess with my buddies. And so when I went on these missions, I developed a reputation when it was my turn in the barrel, and that they all wanted to go on the mission with me because I developed a reputation of bringing everybody back. I didn't think that much of it. But then when all these years go by, and then I think about, I still live with the guilty feeling that I didn't give all I could have and wanted to. I just wanted to do more and more. I said, why me? How come I'm alive and they're not? Well, here's the deal. Now I think back, you know what I did? I was so concentrated on their safety and their good patrol plan, good support, well planned, executed, and prayed for them. Even the mountain yards. Now their mountain yards, they're forgot what religion, Buddhists. A lot of them Buddhists, you know, different religions. Mm-hmm. And of course, the real mountain yards, they to the gods, you know, they put symbols up to the sun, moon, stuff like that, and all that. But you know what? They're human beings. When they get shot, they get hurt. They hurt just like you and me. And I like I like to see them smile, especially a mountain yard woman. They eat beetle nut, you know, and it kind of drools down over their cheeks, and they're kind of like Aborigines, you know.
Yeah.
But to me, they're beautiful people because they're so real. Well, and then you know, the Brew Mountain Yard, they grind their teeth down with rocks because teeth are ugly. So they'll take rocks, the girls, and grind their teeth down, you know. And but anyway, so we're talking about. I want the moms and the dads and the brothers and the sisters and wives and everything that lost their husbands over there, that they need to stand proud of them. They need to be relieved that their war is over, and they don't have to think about it anymore. And they should be proud of them that they're at peace with their Maker, you see, and just be thankful for that. And so that point, and the fact that I'm a Christian, and I haven't even got into the good stuff yet, explaining to you what I was involved with. There's only one way with this back problem and everything that's happened to me. There's only one way. Somebody's watching over him, you know. So that I have to give credit to God for my being here and bringing me through all this. And that's most important. I have two more things that I do want to give credit to, and I don't know if you'll have time to tell a little bit about, because they're heroes in my book.
Okay.
There's such an organization as Navy Seabees. I want to tell you how I got involved with them, and there's a project that's an organization that I worked with. It was called Project Tiger Hound, and these are Air Force pilots that I didn't know one of them that lived through what they did for the war effort and for us, and that they'd fly single-engine airplane. Now I've gone really fast forward.
Okay.
I've left this camp down here, Houghton. I've gone back and instructed. The Army screwed up and sent me, well, back to Vietnam. But before all this, they shifted me from the southern part of I Corps up to Quai Son, a place called Quai Son. You can't read about Vietnam without knowing about Quai Son and Long Vay. In fact, I brought a book to you on Long Vay, Tanks in the Wire.
Yeah.
Got overran. Well, everything up there at Quai Son, before the Marines came up there, or even, well, especially after the Marines got there, it was nothing above the ground didn't have holes in it. And this Project Tiger Hound, what they came up with the idea with, we need somebody to fly over the jungle and draw fire and locate the VC and the NVA. We didn't have the means of satellite photography and all the stuff we got now. Well, these guys would volunteer for it. It was a L-19 single-engine plane. Now everything above the ground going to get holes in it. So now what do you do? What's he going? He can't be flying in and out there every day. It's a long ways up there. So we had our mountain yards dig a trench off the side of the runway, such as it was. Just slope down so when they weren't flying, that aircraft would be low ground level. Unless it got a direct hit, of course, you can't do nothing about that. And then when they get ready to fly their missions, we put a rope on it and pull it up on top of the ground. Of course, flew in fuel for it and everything. Well, they'd take off. And they'd send one of the special forces would ride with them when they could. But a lot of times they just flew by themselves. They'd go across the jungle canopy, just off the canopy, and they had 2.75-inch rocket pods on there. And what they would do is fly around the canopy where, through intelligence that we suspected the enemy, to draw fire. Purposely tried to get fire. And then as soon as they draw fire, they'd, boom. Well, they'd have the jet boys up there waiting, you know, because they'd find them. And they were on call, and he didn't want to wait for them to fly all the way from Da Nang up there to Quai Son, so they'd be in the air. So he'd draw fire. Well, that's kind of risky business, mister.
Yeah, it's a Judas goat.
Yeah, and they'd mark the target, call their airstrikes in, and things like that. So their life, I mean, my hat, I mean, that was crazy. So I respected them guys very much, and I've never heard anybody talk about them, and it wasn't really classified. Of course, what was kind of, because we kind of sneak across the border to Laos and stuff like that. But rules of engagement, that was a sore spot with me too. But anyway, so I want to give them credit. Now, Quai Son started out just like that small camp that I started out in, Houghton. It started out with just a team of special forces went up there and started recruiting the mountain yards and the CIDG. We called them, a lot of the CIDG would be implemented with our mountain yards. They could have been from Saigon, anywhere in Vietnam, but they decided they want to sign up and fight. So we We had them, but we also had Chinese nungs up there. Chinese nungs are Chinese mercenaries, especially highly trained, highly experienced, left over from the French Indochina War fighting with the French. For entertainment, they'd sit around at night and point to different chunks of missing hair and a hole here and a hole there on their bodies and laugh and tell them about how they got hit and about how they killed Charlie and everything. That was war for them. They were good. And so the Chinese nungs. But then the war kept escalating and case on building up. And guess what? Par for the course. If you know anything about Navy Seabees, they sent a bunch of raggedy Seabees up there to get everything ready for the Marines to come up. They had to get water points for the Marines. They had to build command bunkers. They had to upgrade the runway. In order to bring in all these Marines and build this war up, the old runway was PSP, pierced steel matting. Well, we got so many motors and rockets, it was getting all buckled. They buckled. The aircraft couldn't land safely on them. And then they want to bring in, so they had to get rid of all that runway. And they sent a squad of Seabees up there, and I tell you, these guys were awesome. Their leader was only a E7 Chief Petty Officer, Chief Hewling. Of course, I was younger then, and he looked even older than me. Had liver spots on his head. You know, he's so old. You know how old people get. Mm-hmm. And boy, was he tough. And they lived with us. Now, they had to adapt our style of living and eating and fighting, and they have to blend in with the defenses at night, and we had to give them positions, and boy, they just took. Well, they started to get this runway built, and guess what? The thing was all buckled up so bad and everything, they were getting way behind schedule and getting discouraged. They couldn't get the old out of the way to bring in smaller, heavy equipment and grade it and, you know, get that. Right. I said, I take care of that. I said, I know how to get rid of that runway. I says, give me one CB, help me. I took my C4. I told him, I said, I'm going to blow that baby up in chunks, and you just be able to drag it right out of the way and get going. Well, I didn't know it would work as good as it did. It'd take 26 pounds of C4 just to make one cut across that runway. But I'd have them mold the C4 in a little groove, go all the way across the runway, touch that baby off, and it'd open it up like a book. I'd move the next couple paces up this way, and I cut it on this side and fold that over on this. Now they could take their equipment, they just got it off the runway so they could get that new down. Oh, I became their hero. I was still a Green Beret, and it was the Seabees and me, and then I showed them how to build their defenses, and I rigged up booby traps for in front of their positions, and I had all kinds of stuff. So anyway, we were going along so fast, I went 36 hours and no sleep, just blowing up runway. Finally, I was getting beat. I says, look, I'm far enough ahead, guys, and we got to take a break. So I usually manned a machine gun, but that night they said, we go down there in the Commo bunker and get some sleep. I just laid down, kaboom! Oh, man. Them crazy Seabees. I shouldn't have showed them how to do that stuff. I says, they're out there. They made another cut because I showed them. I got them pretty good at crimping, blasting caps and putting C4 down there. I said, let them go. I fell back asleep. They didn't even wake me up. What happened, the NVA had fired a Russian 120 rocket right where they had been watching us. Right where we were going to make our next cut. In fact, it saved me a little explosive when I got up the next day.
Because they didn't
Well,
work.
we'd have been all killed. See? But these Seabees were so hard-working, adapt, and versatile, and I can tell you, we don't have time to tell you all the stuff we did like that, and how they got involved in the fighting. Well, now, fast forward, things are winding down for me. I got involved in setting up a camp at Long Bay, which was bad. It got overran after I left. Then they built, Seabees helped them build a new camp. That's the one that got overran with the tanks. But I knew all these guys and worked with them and was in the planning of it. But the Seabees, before I left camp, their commander came up to Quezon and made me an honorary Seabee for all the help I gave them and working with them. Now, who would ever know, all years would go by, and my back problem and all the crazy things that happen, and we just don't have time to get into it. That I'd end up going back in the Navy and being a Seabee. And maybe you'd be interested in, there again, art of about anybody been in the military, anybody that makes E7 up for E8, spends 12 years in the Army, gets out of the Army, got his back all screwed. All I got to do is stand up, and you see my back ain't right. Yeah. And how are they going to get back in the Navy? Oh, they wanted to give me disability. But I didn't want nothing from nobody. I told them, I said, you keep your disability. I don't need you guys. I was bitter when I got out. Not bitter against Vietnam, bitter because the way they were treating, giving me funky jobs, and I've always had a lot of responsibility. And I just didn't like it, and so I was bitter. And so I said, you keep your disability. I'll make it. And I did. And I'm glad I didn't take that disability, because the way things worked out, I was only out a year and a half, 2 years, and talked it over, family and everything. Oh, that brings me up one more point. I forgot. I talked about being, I got to say things when I think of them. I'll come back to that thought. But my wife, we've been married 54 years. And she raised 3 kids while I was going through all this. She didn't know lots of times if I was dead or alive, but no news is no good news.
Right.
She stood by me all that time. But, all the military wives, I got to give them credit. They're tough, and they are tough, some of them, But there's a few that, things don't work out. They don't hang in there, but she did. But when I went back to Vietnam the second time with this brace on my back, and it was an elaborate one, she says, I know, anybody knows, the military isn't going to make you go back to a war zone with that thing on your back and you be in the shape you're in. Sharon, I know, but I got to go. I says, for my buddies, I got to get back into it. And I said, I don't know what I'll do. The Army's going to give me some kind of easy job called MACV. I don't know if you ever know. Okay, MACV stands for Military Advisory Command, and they're going to send me out reconning bridges for rebuilding. They said, if you know how to blow them up, you know how to build them up. So.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you have to know where strategically the critical points of the bridge to
blow them up.
So I started doing that. Well, that brace, you talk about humidity and everything. One day I found a trash can, took the lid off, took the brace off, and threw it, and I says, I'm going to get this back straight. I started doing push-up like girls do on my hands and knees. I could only do one. That's all I could do. And I just started doing that while I was in Nam and doing all this other monkey business. One day, guy just come off R&R with his wife in Hawaii, and he's in one of these MACV camps, similar to Special Forces. And I says, you know what? I said, you and I are same pay grade, same MOS. I tell you what you do. You take this job I got, and I'll go out there to the camp. I said, that's my style out there in the jungle. I got paybacks to do. Oh, I can't do that. I said, come on, do it for me. Do it for your family. You're safer back here, this job I got. I said, he didn't. Guess what? He got killed. I wasn't a week later. He went out there. Mortar round came in and got him. Well, they were having trouble in that camp, and this colonel come up. He says, Robinson, I hear you're old Green Beret. He says, I think, and you've been through that stuff, problems. He says, what do you think of going out there to help them guys out and motivate them? They're not doing all they should do. Yeah, I'll go. So I went out there, and that's how I finished my second tour. I was back in the war again. I kept getting stronger. I scrounged material, and because of my experience with being an honorary CB from up there the first tour, I went over to the CBs. I said, hey, we need some material out there to reinforce these bunkers, get bunkers built. I put in concertina fence, tanglefoot, and I need more Claymore mines, and I need 2.75-inch rocket pods that we can scrounge for. I says, I'll go get them guys protected out there, and I went on operation with them, so I was back in the war again. Of course, at first they weren't too cooperative, but then they seen, this is working. So now it's time to go home. So I went home after that, and now I got, wards and stuff like that, and I burned all that too. I don't believe in heroes. I'm not a hero. I served with a bunch of them, but you're a hero. You're a hero. We played the hand that's dealt us. You're in the wrong place, and you do what you got to do. That's all it is to me. I don't believe in medals and all that. So,
what did you? What were the good times? Tell me the good times.
The good times?
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk about it too much because I liked what I did over there, and if I'll say this: when I had a successful operation, the name of the game was getting kills. Mm-hmm. And just so I got to war affects different people different ways. So I get so involved in what I thought was good and what I was trained to do. I was getting good at it, and that was a good time to me. And you'd think going home, but sure, I was glad to go home, but you know what? Second night I was home the first time, I woke up wanted to kill my wife. Because I didn't know I forgot where I was at, and I wasn't used to being that close to anybody and everything. I snapped out of it, of course. And in fact, when I went back to Vietnam the second time, she almost divorced me because she says, all you want to do is kill. And I says, no, I want to live up to that creed. That's why I brought that book, Special Forces Creed. Give it my all for my buddies and my country. And I says, man's got to do what a man's got to do. And I said, I don't feel right. There's been too many people I know going over there, and their families suffer. And I says, no, I got to go back. So that almost cost my marriage going back the second time.
Yeah. Were you afraid going? I mean, a lot of the guys who got out of there, most have just done one tour. We talked about and said that even when they got short, they got worried. They were happy, not happy, but fine with doing it, but didn't want to go back because they felt like they were asking for trouble. They didn't want to take that risk again, but you did.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I say, and I don't ever take nothing away from, nothing wrong with that. That's common sense and a normal feeling. But again, if you get anything out of this talking to me, I'm not alone. There's a lot of us that got so caught up in the war. I know he didn't come back. He stayed over there like 3.5 years, not back in the flagpole area. He was out there running missions, and there's another group.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. Is it the adrenaline, or what keeps you going out there? What is it about that? Because that's a normal that most people don't get.
Satisfaction. You're doing what you're trained to do, what you believe in doing, and you build up a hatred for the enemy. If you've seen I didn't want to get in because being politically correct and news media don't like to hear about some things that.
You can say whatever you want. I've not stopped anybody here.
I won't. No.
Okay.
If you promise, no.
I can't promise not to.
You got a recorder on.
I got a recorder on, so say what you want. Okay.
Okay.
But is it? So it's there is an adrenaline with that.
Yeah.
Do that.
And a hatred.
How do you? Okay.
So if you've seen your buddies mutilated.
Okay.
Okay. And what the enemy does to villagers. And see those all these mountain yards in various groups. There's another group I left out, and I got it. Even if you don't have time, I want to tell you about these guys. They're neat too. You see wrongdoing. I told you how you mess with me, but don't mess with my buddies, and that pisses me off. And don't want to do that. I've melted out, but. You want revenge, and when you get revenge, you kind of feel, there's some of your own medicine, buddy, and, things like that. You just get so caught up. And sure, then now I wouldn't take no break. They did make me take one break, but they knew I wasn't tracking exactly right, and they brought my food and beer to the room to me. I didn't want to be around them flagpole troops, see. They said, okay, well, it's okay. Just calm down here. And sure, it felt good to have a few beers. Can't have no beer out there by the way. Here's another thing. I never saw no drugs the whole time I was in the military. You always think everybody in the military, they do the marijuana thing and drugs. Well, the guys I worked with, I never seen any, never did any, never.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a pointed question because I'm good at doing that.
Okay.
How does a guy who's out in the field in revenge, who's also praying for folks too, how do you square religion with that?
That's a good question because I asked myself that, and that's why, you know what, I felt guilty for the way I was behaving sometimes and tracking. And I guess that's why back in them days, I prayed for the other guys because I knew they were good guys and nice guys, and maybe I'm not so good, but they were. And I thought about my family too, but I don't know if you ever, one of the books that helped me, I don't read much, Purpose Driven Life book. I think for some reason, because there's a lot of experiences that have come from my experiences and my behavior, that God works in mysterious ways. It's the only way I can explain it. And he's been mighty patient and kind with me, and I know that for sure. But yeah, I feel guilty about having done some of the things I've done, but I feel good in other ways because it's given me ample opportunity to share with others, go to church. He knows, I'm sure. I talked to him one way. Well, I said, you know what? I said, you know, God's been mighty kind to me, huh? And patient with me. And
yeah. What when you were over there, and you know things, the war is not popular. How did you think about that, and what did you do?
Oh yeah, now you're getting the aggravating thing with me.
I get to everything on these, so I might as well hit the aggravating.
Well, here's the deal.
Okay.
You ever heard of Walter Crankpot?
I've heard a name, slightly different variation, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
Well, I come back from Vietnam the first time. Now it's I'm listening to the news a little bit, and now I'm getting ready. And he saw Special Forces. A lot of us used to call him Walter Crankpot because it's bullshit.
Okay.
The news wasn't coming. We knew what was going on there. We watched the Vietnamese grow, mature, military experience-wise. The Vietnamese Rangers were really getting tough over there. You know, when I first went in the military, it was after Korea, and the GIs were talking about them slope-headed, zipper-eyed,
right.
Umpty-ump people like they were no good. Well, I'll tell you what, mister, right now the South Korean Army is one of the highest trained, motivated soldier in the world. You don't want to mess with them boys. Well, the Vietnamese were just coming in there, but the news back here wasn't putting it forth that way. Remember I told you had to fight your way out of Saigon? Mm-hmm. I went back the second time, reported in. I says, well, where's my weapon? Oh, you don't need a weapon here. I said, what do you mean I don't need a weapon here?
Right.
There's a war. I said, I ain't going nowhere without a weapon. You're not allowed to carry a weapon around here. I says, what in the heck has happened here? And so now they gave me an assignment, Ben Wall, outside of Saigon. They were going to first send me to, and I said, okay, we're going up there. How far is it up there? Oh, 50 clicks or whatever the distance was. I said, well, where's our weapons? No, we don't carry no weapons here. Then I got to go there. Here's 6-lane concrete highway leading out of Saigon. And I see all these Vietnamese running around on mopeds and motorcycles. And they're smiling and laughing. And I says, man, this country's come a long ways, man. Wow. See? That's a big difference. We were making progress. We were really making progress. But because of they talk about mainstream media, and people like these news commentators, they inject their own opinions, and you don't get it straight.
Okay, so you saw much. That's a great point. So that must have been hard to see what was being reported, and then yet you were a lot closer to that.
Yeah, I said, oh man, So, yeah, I hope I cleared those 2 points up. But I got one more thing I want to tell you.
You can tell me whatever you want
about mercenaries, the Chinese mercenaries. Well, to do these, and you haven't heard about SOG operations and stuff, have you?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. I'm sure you don't have time. I'm going to leave these books with you, and you just thumb through them. And I really don't do much reading. I won't even turn the computer on. I don't do hardly any reading. Don't go to many movies. The way I came by two of these books was when I was serving in the embassy. See, 1997 to 99, I served in the Russian embassy, my wife and I. And while I was there, I like to hang with tough people. The FBI guy would say, Robbie, you use that case on Long Bay? I said, well, yeah. He says, you got that book, Tanks and Wire, don't you? I said, no, I don't read books much. I don't need them. And I bad enough as it is, I just try to stay away from all that stuff. You got to get this book. This is you. So I sent to Fort Bragg, got the book, and I said, man, it was like my life passing before me. So, and then there's a book about SOG.
Okay.
There's people think it's Special Operations Groups, but Studies Observation Group is the correct name for SOG. And the teams, due to what all I was involved with, I got involved in insertions and extractions of these teams. Now, I wasn't in the SOG, and I wasn't on one of those teams, but being where we're up there at Quezon, we got involved in inserting them and extracting them, and I know what all went down there. But to fly these guys into Laos, and because of rules of engagement, we hired Chinese pilots. And these guys were good. One of the two main ones were Cowboy and Mustachio. They flew the old H-34 King Bee helicopter. It looked like a big grasshopper, big bubble in front, and they were good. I hadn't seen them done it, but they said they've seen Cowboy turn one of them, do a barrel roll with one. And on the insertions, now these were the insertions in SOG were about 6 to 8 men teams going in, making recons and setting up dirty trick devices and things, and ambushes and everything, and gathered intel mainly, and that 6 or 8 men could easily take on a battalion as NVA. They weren't. I mean, they had the weaponry and the skill to call strikes and everything. But anyway, these Cowboy and Mustachio, they operated out of our camp again, because we're right up there in the corner of Laos and the DMZ. So I flew with one of them. One of the not so nice things I had to do is for the teams that get wiped out. Now, some of these SOG teams, they call airstrikes right in on themselves because they were dead meat anyway. So they says, what the heck? We'll take all we can with us, you know. And they've been known to call airstrikes right now. Well, families, they want something for closure. So I've been involved in going back into these areas just to find a leg or something to identify that, yeah, this is so-and-so, he was
right,
gone, you know. And, yeah, but that brings back too many things. But these pilots, wow, were they neat guys. They were tough. And these Chinese nuns, they lived in camp with us. They were tough. I mean, they were crazier than I am. I mean, I got so many things. I've said enough. I'm going to leave it there.
Is it? Were there times when you thought you weren't going to get out of a fight?
You know, I never thought it that way. I just was so busy doing what I had to do and returning fire, doing like one night going through the trenches and the CIDG that was ahead of me in the trench. We were getting hit. A piece of shrapnel hit him right out behind his neck, and his head flops over and blood flying and everywhere, and it was bad. And I never thought at that time that I'm doing what I'm trained to do. Yeah. It was a funny deal, time to come home that first time, and the second time, you'd think I'd be elated, and well, it's like getting mail. I almost didn't want any mail because it's too nicey, lovey stuff, and I can't do nothing about it. And see, back in them days, we didn't have computers where you email and all this stuff. We didn't have no contact. I had less. I did a lot of the things I did to myself. It wasn't. They didn't like guys to stay out in the field as long as I did. They like you to go back and take a break and keep your what they call sanity. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have. No, I just stay out there. But I didn't take no R&R. See, military, they give everybody R&R sometime during their tour to go to Hawaii, go anywhere on the island. Even there's I think it was called Cameron Bay, where the guys used to go there for a break because it's ocean and.
Yeah.
But no.
Was it? How do you go from? Because eventually you got out of that war situation, the jungle. How do you even go back to kind of a normal civilian life?
Well, what helped me the first time getting involved in that demolition committee, because I had all these explosives I'm working with every day, and it was like old times, and I could, my job was to even create new ideas and teach others how to do all this. So I was in my I was fit right in. I mean, and it was fun for a while. And we had our, we called our kitchen demolitions. In kitchen demolitions, we had the chemical phases where we mixed all kinds of chemicals and stuff like that. And there on the demo committee, we had, out of the committee of 11, 12 people, we had 6 or 8 get hurt just making their own stuff, but the chemicals going off and being, sometimes, in my case, it was a case of being careless, but so that helped the guys I was hanging with. The second time I come back, I didn't fit at all. Things weren't working too good. Then the second time I come back, I almost got divorced, and I was bitter against the Army for giving me after all the things I've been involved in and all the fights and everything, and they're gonna give me a job checking in household goods for people moving on the base or something.
Right.
Some funky job like that. I said, no, I lost it there. And finally, the Army seen I would give credit to the Army. They seen I was having a problem adjusting. And I told them, I said, I'm getting out. I had a year to go yet. Just tell you how bad, okay, I'll use this for example, how bad Special Forces, SEALs, they go through it too. This sergeant at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, this ain't me, I'll tell it on somebody else, but he should have talked to me. I could have got him through it, but he got pissed off at this colonel because they were giving him the same thing. Mm-hmm. He was a Green Beret, and then you take a Green Beret out of his environment, and if he's real gun-ho, they don't adjust too good. Mm-hmm. Well, he had it. He went up to report to the colonel's office, and the door was being repaired on his office, and it was sitting off to the side. So he just walked in the office, Colonel says, "Sergeant, get back out there and report like you're supposed to. You're supposed to knock on the door, and so reporting, sir, all
right, all the formal.
We don't do that good. We weren't good marching soldiers. You need one army for fighting and one for parade field." He goes, gets the door, sets the door back up there temporary. He just reared back and gave that a kick, slammed that door right into that colonel's desk, went up to his desk and knocked all his inboxes off, and and told that colonel, he said, "I'll kill you," you know. I mean,
Right.
see, he lost it. Well,
Yeah.
you can't do that in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
He ended up in the brig, but that's just how you can go off.
Yeah. So how did you manage to not go off in the regular world, and how did you manage to deal with that?
I still had enough Christian in me that God does not forsake the children of the righteous, see, that it carried me through, and I started going back to church, you know, for a while and things like that. Old Clayton Sawyers was on the demo committee, and he kept, "Robbie, you go to church with me." I said, "Clayton, get out of here. I ain't going to church." "I'm glad you go." Yeah, finally I went, and it was good. You know, I'd go back to trying to be the kind of person that God would have me to be, so that's the only reason that you got to give credit where credit's due. That's only, when I die and get up there to heaven, them guardian angels are going, "Phew, we get a break from this guy."
Right. What about, you said something interesting earlier that I wrote down, and you said, for a lot of those guys that you fought with, you want their families to know that, that their war is over. They're at peace with their maker. Two interesting things you said there. Is the war over for you?
No, it still goes on. I say I won't because I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the frustrating things for me now is our government doesn't follow through on its promises to all these nations and all these countries, and the Kurds over there. They're doing those Kurds just like they did our mountain yards. They're the only ones that are real. They're the guys you want on your team, and we're not supporting them. We give them a little bit here, a little bit there, but we're not supporting them guys, right? We're not supporting any country, right? I gave that jacket away because kind of embarrassed to wear it. Now I won't wear it after today because Iraq. I went over there I went to Kosovo right after that invasion too, to support the military. Took risks. Went through had my own map, known suspected landmines, and Iraq, same thing. But anyway, our country don't follow through to our promises to anybody. That's why we're not respected anymore. So in relation to, sure, my war goes on, but I don't want to say something I don't want. I got to hold back on some things because I still love my country, and I don't want to say anything to discredit my country. The Special Forces. That's why I brought that book with you. You can read stuff in there. A lot explains. Oh, I can see that guy. I can see where he has the attitude he has and where he's coming from. He was under different kind of guidance, but I take it more serious than a lot of guys, of course, which is good. Mm-hmm. You can't, but yeah, I cope with it. I stay busy. Oh, the Army, they says, before we let you loose, you're not fit for society. We got to retrain you. Society ain't ready for you. You ain't ready for society.
Was that true?
Kind of.
Okay.
I respect them for it because what they did, they says, look, all you got to do is pick out a way to make a living or what you want to do in life. They said, so I went to the newspaper and I looked and I kept seeing electrical, air conditioning, refrigeration, those two main trains. I said, because I always took care of my family, bad as a person as I am, I always made sure my family was taken care of, the wife, the children, had a home. I wouldn't, if I was low on money and it had a choice, a loaf of bread or a beer, I always chose a loaf of bread, see, for the family. I always took care of them. So I kept seeing air conditioning, refrigeration. Maybe I'll do that. See, well, man, I signed up for Waynesville Technical School in Waynesville, Missouri, and got into this air conditioning business. And again, the way things happened to me, it only had to be God had a purpose for me, because there's no way the average guy could have done all these things. And when I went back in the Navy, I went from E7 all the way to E4. CB, take or leave it. Well, CBs were kicking people out. Here I had a bum back. CB. Well, it was the best thing, because I got in the CBs, guess what? I ended up teaching them, they get Marine-type training. And when they stood down for military training, I taught mines and booby traps, I taught patrolling, I taught interrogation, I taught all the map reading, I taught all these military subjects. I changed my hat and got heavy into the survival stuff and everything. But the only reason I got in the Seabees was the Army sent me to this, I signed up at the college there, community college, for air conditioning, refrigeration, and make a long story short, the instructor took me right under his wing. He took a liking to me, and he even wanted to make me, again, fast forward, I ended up being vice president of Air Conditioning, Refrigeration, Engineering Incorporated, Waynesville, Missouri, and wanted me to be in his company. And I got real good at it. Well, then things, 1973 to 74, our country was kind of screwed up financially, where the bond were paying as high as 13% interest.
Yep.
And things like that, and the farmers were having, it was all screwed up. Well, we didn't get a big contract we were banking on. He says, I says, this ain't working. And Jim Delp, I said, Jim, Jim says, why don't you go talk to the Navy? And I'll even write up a good recommendation for you. And see if you could get back in the Navy, finish your, I only needed 8 years to retire. Finish your 8 years, come back here, we'll try this again, you know? So I did, and I burned even the most critical paper you get when you get out, DD 214. Everybody got DD 214, not me. I burned mine.
Right, those are your discharge with what you did, right?
Yeah, I burned everything. All.
Why'd you burn them?
I was bitter against the Army mainly, and the way I was treated when they gave me all. I had all these experiences and responsibilities, and then they and I don't want to get into any more detail because it make sound like I'm bad-mouthing the Army, and I don't want to do that. Yeah. The fact is, on that thought, people say, you in the Army and the Navy, which one do you like best? I like both of them. I said I had some good experiences, and I feel fortunate to have served in both of them. I like them both. So anyway, what did you just ask me?
Let's talk a little bit about how did you? I mean, if you said you came home and you were bitter and you're angry and all of that, how long did it? And does it still go on, or how long did it take you to get where you can even talk about this?
Once in a while, over the years, if I was with the right person and something would click, I'd tell them a little story. Nothing as extensive, never as extensive as we're doing here now. And this ain't going to happen again. But I didn't talk about it too much. Once in a while, if somebody, I feel they could relate to where I'm coming from, I like sharing with somebody that's been where I'm at, or anybody dealing with special forces. I'm hoping that if this gets out in the news, CB or a Special Forces guy, hey, I know, I was over there about time, same, maybe somebody even knows me. Oh, I like that. Now I can talk. Oh, man. Now I can talk. Then I'm free. That's about as far as it goes. This is only 3 books I got on Vietnam or war. One of them was for the 50th anniversary of Special Forces, then Tanks in the War, and SOC. And one of the guys in that book I served with in Russia when I was working in Russia at the embassy. And he since died of cancer. And he's in the book. And Tanks in the Wire, you'll see, as I read them books, I scribbled some. I said, oh, man, I remember this or this. So I'll share them with you because they'll express. I want you to read the Special Forces Creed.
Okay.
And that's me. And then there's a Special Forces Prayer, too.
Will you read them?
Huh?
Will you read them?
Yeah, I'll
read them. Let's get them out. Let's read those.
Yeah. These are some real good people in here. Oh, yeah. I just flipping through here, and oh, there's that list of. This is not good. Of all the names of just Special Forces on the wall down there in Arlington, and I recognize a lot of them, and I'll highlight them. But yeah.
Have you been to the wall?
Yeah, yeah. I rode Roaring Thunder. I went down there. I rode the Harley. Yeah. There it goes. Thought it was first couple pages here. Didn't think it was that far in here. I'm going over it. Yeah, I says, boy, I says, oh, I don't know. The creed and the prayer. Where is it?
You want me to try and find it for you?
Yeah, it jumps. Huh?
Is that where you have the papers? Got some papers in here.
No, I don't know why they're there. It wouldn't be that far. Oh, there's about Long Bay. Tanks somewhere. No, it's right.
Yeah,
The first 5 or 6 pages. I thought it has a creed and a prayer.
Okay.
On the
So
same.
I want to ask a question for you. When you look back now on more than 50 years, and you think about Vietnam, what do you think? What are your thoughts now, maybe as opposed to what they were then?
I look back, I wish we'd sided with Ho Chi Minh because Ho Chi Minh asked America to help him bring that country together way back then. And Ho Chi Minh was educated in America even. And the Vietnamese are beautiful people. They're a happy people. The Montagnards, they're a little, they keep to themselves kind of, but I wish we had sided with Ho Chi Minh, and it'd have been a beautiful. We're even, we just established diplomatic relations with them, and I had a chance to go serve in Hanoi. After I left China, I also served at the embassy in China, and they says, Robbie, we'd like you to go handle the colonel, our first ambassador to Hanoi. He was a POW in Hanoi. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, and he ended up marrying a Vietnamese. And that was only after his wife died of cancer. After he got out of Hanoi prison, his name's Peterson. And they said, and I was going to go see him before I left China. And it was during Tet. And the North Vietnamese computer systems were still antiquated. I couldn't get the daggum paperwork, and I said, it ain't meant to be. And my wife, she said, I ain't going there with you. She says, no way. So I said, okay. I dropped it, but yeah.
Was your, let's talk a little bit about, too, one of the reasons we're doing these interviews is to try and preserve the history, to try to have the history for when people look back and say, what was Vietnam like? What do you hope they remember?
Well, I hope they remember all the good men that died, and just the organizations like the Air Force Group, Tiger Hound, the SOG groups, Project Delta, all the blood, sweat, and tears that were spent there. The Vietnamese are beautiful people. We missed the boat when we didn't stick by them. The South Vietnam could be just like Korea. They're very hard-working, sincere people. And I want the people to get, not just that, but my primary concern was for the families that their loved ones got killed over there early in the war, and their lives have gone on now. But when they look back, I want them to think, well, you hear a lot of people say, the lucky ones are the ones that go over there and they get wounded and then they ship them home. Well, not exactly, because they're wounded. That even makes it, and some of them severely, especially recent wars there in Iraq and Afghanistan and everything. But to me, had I got killed over there, I had the relationship. I know where I'm going. See, and it'd have been all over, but I didn't, and keeps cropping up. Keep thinking about it. So, but I wouldn't volunteer to go to, especially Kosovo and Iraq like I did now. But there again, I have to withdraw some of my opinions because I don't want to sway anything to get out, and I don't want to sway any younger people's opinions, or I don't want to do anything take away from pride in our country.
Yeah.
I still love America, and there's no other place I'd sooner be, I'll tell you that.
Was Vietnam a good thing for you?
Yeah, that was me. I was meant to be. Ever since 6, 7 years old, I played with that shoebox of them pictures of paratroopers in World War II. I says, that's me. I used to, growing up in the dairy farm, I'd climb up in the rafters and jump off we had loose hay then, we didn't have bales. Just practicing being a paratrooper. Then I got kind of worried when I got older. In high school, I started to get a little buff. I started weightlifting and everything. I said, oh, I hope, it seemed like them paratroopers, they're all little guys, tough, big biceps.
That was you.
Yeah, and I stuck to it.
What does your wife and your family think now, 50 years back? What do they think of?
Well, this ain't good. My wife, one brother-in-law, he retired E9, Master Chief in the Navy. Another brother-in-law, he retired captain, full, that's full board colonel in the Army, but captain in the Navy. He spent 39 years in the Navy. Real good man. He was a soldier, or sailor. Real good man. All her brothers were mad at me when I kept going back to harm's way. They says, "You've done enough. You got to think of your family." So they weren't happy with me, and I brought some things back from Kosovo and stuff, and they don't agree with it. So they're not on my side on all that way of thinking. They don't understand it, and they talk about Vietnam. They talk about they were on aircraft carriers and stuff like that. Well, and that was their side of the war, but I was in the trenches and jungle, and that was my world. So they're not happy with me.
Yeah. I found both of those.
Did you? Where was
it? Yep, they're back there. They're just a little farther back. This is the Special Forces Prayer and the Special Forces Creed. So maybe to close this, will you read both of those for me?
Sure.
Okay, here they are.
Yep. I went right by it. I remember that picture. Okay, here we go. This is the Special Forces Creed, and I totally agree with it. I am an American Special Forces soldier, a professional. I will do all that my nation requires of me. I am a volunteer, knowing well the hazards of my profession. I serve with the memory of those who have gone before me: Rogers Rangers, Francis Marion, Mosby's Rangers, 1st Special Service Force, the Jedburghs, Detachment 101. I was part of that. And Special Forces soldiers of Vietnam, who won 18 Medal of Honors, 117 Distinguished Services Crosses. I pledge to uphold the honor and integrity of all these in all that I am and all I do. I am a professional soldier. I will teach and fight wherever my nation requires to liberate the oppressed. I will strive always to excel in every art and artifice of war. I know that I will be called upon to perform my task in isolation, far from familiar faces and voices. With the help and the guidance of my God, I will conquer my fears and succeed. I will help clean in mind and body, alert and strong, for this is my debt to those who depend upon me. I will not fail those whom I serve. I will not bring shame upon myself or Special Forces. I will maintain myself, my arms, my equipment, and in an immaculate service state as benefits a Special Forces soldier. My goal is to succeed in any mission and live to succeed again. May I not be found wanting, that I will not fail this sacred trust.
Will you read the prayer?
Yep. Almighty God, who art the author of liberty and the champion of the oppressed, hear our prayer. We, the men of Special Forces, acknowledge our dependence upon Thee in the preservation of human freedom. Go with us as we seek to defend the defenseless and to free the enslaved. May we ever remember that our nation, whose motto is, "In God we trust," expects that we shall acquit ourselves with honor, that we may never bring shame upon our faith, our families, or our fellow man. Grant us wisdom from thy hand, courage from thy heart, strength from thy arm, and protection by thy hand. It is for thee that we do battle, and to thee belongs the victor's crown. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
Thank you.
Okay.
You know, you have so many wonderful experiences and a breadth of time that you served in the military that it's hard to probably, it's probably foolish in a time like this to get everything in. What have I missed that needs to be said here, Robbie?
That I'm not the only one that feels like this. I had a lot of good buddies that I look up to, and they were my mentors, and my esprit de corps and everything. I served with some real men, and I tell people I'm not much in my mind, but out of fairness to God, God don't make junk. So I don't want to take that away from God, but I have a much lower opinion of myself because I have so much respect for some brave, intelligent, dedicated men that I served with.
Yeah. Well, I want to say a couple things. Thank you for sharing your story and will be willing to be part of this project. And thank you for serving. Thank you for fighting and volunteering. One of the parts of the creed that I think is important to know is that you were a volunteer, and you volunteered and you went back and you did that at expense to your family and at expense to yourself. So thank you. You have my profound respect. Thank you for listening. For those of you who have tuned in and to hear this pretty amazing interview and this pretty amazing man, this is Daryl Ehrlich. I've been with Robbie Robinson, a veteran of both the U.S. Army and the Navy. Thanks.